Let me start by saying that travel insurance should be non-negotiable when traveling overseas. The problem is that not all travel insurance policies are created equal, and you really need to know exactly what you're buying and exactly what's covered to avoid being left out to dry. But let me tell you, figuring all this stuff out is not fun at all. When you're pumped up about planning your Inca Trail trek to Machu Picchu, the last thing that you want to do is spend 10 hours scouring through the fine print of different travel insurance companies. That's why today I'm going to make your life much easier. I'll show you exactly what to look for in a policy to avoid unpleasant surprises on the road. So let's go jump on the old laptop and take a look-see. Okay, so the three travel insurance plans that we'll compare today are World Nomads, PassportCard Nomads, and SafetyWing. I'll also talk about a couple of other popular alternatives at the end. As you'll see, each of these have pros and cons, and so this will help you decide which fits your situation best. So let's start with price from most to least expensive, but keep in mind that the price isn't the only thing you should be considering here. You also have to take into consideration things like the deductible. Some make you fill out a ton of different info and steps to get to the final price, and so I'm going to fast forward through all that mumbo jumbo so we can get on with this video as fast as possible. So for World Nomads, it depends on a bunch of different factors, including your country of residence, your age, the countries you're traveling to, and things like that. For the sake of equal comparison between the three different companies, I just filled out my information for a mock trip. So a 31-year-old American traveling to Colombia for 1 month. I'll leave all the links below so you can quickly type in your information and check out the prices for your situation. So for this trip, it looks like the standard plan on World Nomads costs $133 and the Explorer plan costs $235. And again, this all depends on many different factors like the country of residence. I tested this out pretending I was a Peruvian traveling to Colombia for the exact same trip, and the prices for each of these were about $60 higher than when I tested it as an American. And so again, it's important for you to test your specific situation to see what the price would be for you. Now we'll get into the differences between the standard and Explorer plan a little bit later on. For now, we're just going to focus on the price comparison. But keep in mind, while World Nomads is the most expensive in most cases, they do cover some things that the other two insurances don't cover. Next up is PassportCard Nomads here, and for their starter plan, which is the most comparable plan to SafetyWing and World Nomads that we're looking at today, it starts at $59 per month, but that is assuming a couple different things. First, it's assuming that you're not traveling to any of these countries: UK, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Brazil, Singapore, Switzerland, or the US. If you're not traveling to any of those countries, it stays at $59 a month. If you're traveling to any of those countries besides the US, it jumps to $99. And if you're traveling to the US, it doesn't even give you the price. It will have you contact them to determine what the best coverage is for you. But let's just say you're not going to any of those countries, so basic $59. The other assumption we're making here is with this $59 per month is that you don't have any chronic diseases or take any medication regularly. If you do, it jumps way up to $242 per month. But for the sake of this comparison, we're just going to assume that everyone is healthy and keep going with the $59. Now, this $59 just covers like the medical side of things, but you can also add in more extras like covering your luggage or extreme sports or different things like that. But each thing you add in will increase your price. So here there's third party, search and rescue. We'll just say no for that. But here, if you want your camera, laptop, extreme sports, or baggage, you can add all those in and how much coverage you want. And for example, if you were to add all of these four things in, it would come out to $111 per month. So overall, unless you have chronic conditions or something like that, the PassportCard Nomads falls in the mid-range between World Nomads and SafetyWing. The only downside is that PassportCard Nomads, the minimum coverage is 1 month, and so this really doesn't make sense if you're just going on a week-long trip or something. If that's the case, you probably want to choose one of the other two. Now moving on to SafetyWing, which is super straightforward compared to the other two. It's just $42 for 4 weeks if you're not traveling in the US, or $77 for 4 weeks if you are traveling in the US. And so if you aren't traveling to the US, that comes out to just $1.50 per day. SafetyWing is the company that my wife and I currently use while traveling, and they covered me for a big motorcycle accident that I had in Thailand. And I actually made a whole video about the claims experience with SafetyWing during that accident with all the surgeries I had to have, so you can check that out here if you're interested. But after they had my back and those surgeries and all the physical therapy and everything in Thailand and Cambodia, now I happily recommend them to others, and I even convinced them to sponsor this video. That said, this video isn't meant to push you towards one insurance company or the other. It's just meant to give you all the information and show you the pros and cons of each so you can decide which one is best for your situation. While SafetyWing is definitely the most affordable option out of these three, there are some advantages to the other two companies, and so we'll get into those in just a sec. It's also important to mention that with all of these companies, the prices jump quite a bit if you get into the higher age groups. And so if any of you guys know any good travel insurance companies for seniors, make sure to leave those down in the comments to help other people. All right, on to part number 2, deductibles. Long story short, for Americans, it seems that there is no deductible, but for other nationalities, there is a deductible. And I tried searching several different nationalities, and it seems like a rough ballpark is the deductible is about $100, more or less, depending on your nationality. But again, you have to check yours exactly. But there is a big caveat here that these deductibles are per event and not per policy period, and there's a big difference there. Per event means that every single time you make a claim, you have to pay out of pocket the deductible before the insurance kicks in, whereas per policy period, like what we'll see with the other ones, is you pay that deductible one time, and then if you later you make another claim, you don't have to repay the deductible again. This might not make a big difference if you're just traveling for a week or two, because the likelihood of making multiple claims is pretty low, but if you're a long-term traveler, this could be a disadvantage. On to PassportCard Nomads. They have no deductible for medical coverage, but if you make a claim for luggage, camera, or laptop coverage, then there is a $50 deductible. And onto SafetyWing, it's pretty clear here right underneath, there is a $250 deductible. That said, this $250 deductible isn't per event like World Nomads. It's per the policy period, which you can extend up to 364 days, I believe. And so if you had a claim on day 10, for example, you pay the deductible, and then if you had any other claims in that same coverage period, then you wouldn't have to repay the deductible again. Speaking of claims, each of these companies has a very different process in terms of how to make your claims if you need to and how to get reimbursement. With World Nomads, it's possible to arrange direct payments ahead of time, but this isn't guaranteed depending on where you go for care, and so it's safe to assume that you may have to pay out of pocket and then make a claim for reimbursement. Their site says that it will take up to 10 business days to make a decision after you send in all the paperwork and everything, plus the time to send out the payment. Compare it to PassportCard Nomads, and the whole special thing about PassportCard Nomads is they send you a debit card, and the idea is that you get your coverage prepaid and they preload the debit card, and you can use that to pay for your coverage, which makes it so you don't have to wait for reimbursement afterwards. If you don't have the card, you can also do it the normal way and claim for reimbursement afterwards, and they say they should get back to you within 7 business days. Now onto SafetyWing, and with SafetyWing, it's also possible to arrange direct payments ahead of time if you use medical centers in their network, or even if you don't. For my motorcycle accident, I was able to arrange direct payment before my surgery, which was super helpful in that case. But again, it's not guaranteed. The unfortunate thing about SafetyWing at this time is that the claims process takes between 30 and 45 business days, plus the time for the payments to get sent out. And so that can kind of be a lengthy amount of time. To avoid this, you just need to try extra hard to get things covered beforehand. They also have a debit card similar to PassportCard Nomads on their product roadmap for the future, but there's no specific dates for that. When it does come out, it's going to be a game changer. All right, last but not least, probably the most important part of this video is what's covered and what's not covered for each of these insurances. To avoid making this into a super long and dry 90-minute video, I'm just going to give you an overview of everything super quick and point you in the right direction. But it's also important to always do your due diligence before buying any type of insurance coverage. I'm making a video showing exactly what you should be investigating before buying any insurance plan to make sure that you don't end up getting screwed. And so make sure to subscribe if you're interested in that one. All right, so let's cover the basics here. For World Nomads, the plan limits is $100,000 for accident and sickness and medical care. They also have $300,000 to $500,000 in evacuation, depending on which plan you choose. Moving on to PassportCards, they have $500,000, the max coverage annually. And for SafetyWing, you have $250,000 as your max limit, and that is for ages 64 and under. So in this case, even though SafetyWing is much cheaper than World Nomads, they have a higher limit as far as medical care and accidents go. As far as COVID coverage, all three of these insurance companies covers COVID. I'll link to the specific pages so you can read the specific information on what's covered and what's not. But for the most part, all of them cover COVID. Next up is the coverage for travel related expenses. Instead of listing everything out that's covered one by one and making this video super long, I'm just gonna make a nice table for you guys, and you can pause the video and compare real quick if you're interested in doing that. And on to the big one, and that is activities that are covered and not covered in each one, which is super important because the last thing you want is to buy an insurance and think you're covered, but it turns out you're doing a certain activity that was excluded by that insurance policy. So with World Nomads, they have this page here where it lists all the activities that are covered on the Standard and Explorer plan. And if it says it's covered under the Explorer plan, that means it's not covered under the Standard plan. And so depending on what you want to do, you can just go here and look quickly to make sure it's covered. For example, some things to keep in mind here, like for example, if you wanted to hike up to an altitude of 7,000 meters, you would need the Explorer plan because the Standard wouldn't cover you. And so you just have to scan through this list and make sure nothing that you're planning to do is on the Explorer plan if you're planning to get the Standard plan. Moving over to the extreme sports for PassportCard Nomads, I'll link to all these three different pages below so you can quickly look for what you need to find. Here, this is basically that $30 add-on that I showed you earlier for the extreme sports, and pretty much it seems like if you buy this add-on, it covers most of everything that would be covered in World Nomads Explorer plan. There might be some differences, but it seems like a lot of them are similar, like skydiving, for example, hot air ballooning. For example, you can see here in World Nomads, hot air ballooning is Explorer. This add-on is comparable to the World Nomads Explorer plan. And onto SafetyWing, you can find what they cover right in their FAQ page. And these, basically, they say they cover most things as long as you're not doing it professionally or like an organized, regular scheduled practice or games or things like that. It has a list of a bunch of things that are included. Note that here a lot of the like hiking and camping things go up to 4,500 meters, and so that's something important to keep in mind. And if you keep scrolling down here, it'll go into a list of things that are not covered. And so these are things like that are super risky, like base jumping and kite surfing and those types of things. And so these things that are excluded by SafetyWing, a lot of them are covered if you buy the Explorer plan in World Nomads or get the add-on in PassportCard Nomads over here. And so that is one downside. Hopefully in the future, SafetyWing will come out with different add-ons where they'll cover riskier activities. But I think for 90% of travelers, most people aren't traveling to go boxing or go bobsleighing or things like that. And so unless you're doing anything extreme, just the normal SafetyWing policy should cover you. Now, another popular insurance company that we didn't cover here is called Allianz Travel Insurance. And the reason I didn't cover it in this video is not because they're a bad insurance company per se, but because when I put in our mock scenario here, it ended up costing a little bit more than SafetyWing, but the coverage was way less. It was like $50,000 max. But Allianz does have the advantage that they have a bunch of different types of plans and different styles of plans, and so if you're looking for something unique, it might be worth checking out as well. Guys, this comparison video took quite a bit of research to put together, and as you can imagine, that wasn't the most fun. So if you found it useful and want to say thanks, you can get your quotes for each of these companies using my affiliate links in the description below. And if you're interested in my experience dealing with the claims process with SafetyWing during my motorcycle accident in Thailand, make sure to check out this video next. I go into the details, including the good and the bad. I hope you find this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.